Majora's Mask. Chapter 69. What Goes Up? Link stirred on a cold surface. When his eyelids fluttered open, he found his face pressed against stone. He tried to remember the last thing that had happened. Did I fall? The hero lay on one of the floating stone cubes, but there was something different about it. He looked up to see the gaping mouth of Stone Tower Temple's entrance, but its mouth and eyes had swapped places. Link stood taking in his surroundings in a daze. He jumped in shock when something flew past him. A boulder, except it fell in the wrong direction. It was falling up. Link watched as the large, detached rock was lifted by an unseen force. It spun as if it fell into the tower base's deep, black chasm that was now the sky. Link's eyes widened when he saw the passages and platforms of the tower above him now. What is happening? He almost wandered right off the edge in his dazed stupor, but he caught himself, looking down to see a purple-black void with thousands of little lights below his cube. The sky. Canyon walls wrapped a few feet below too, but beyond them, there was only the nighttime world of Termina. He turned back to Stone Tower Temple's entrance and realized why the eyes and mouth appeared to have swapped places. The red ruby flashed, now sitting above the gaping mouth. Link recalled the words of the Garou Master. If you shoot that which releases the sacred golden light into the blood-stained red emblem outside the temple, the earth will be born in the heavens, and the moon onto the earth. There had been no metaphor or hidden meaning to his words. It had been entirely literal. The sky was now below him, and the earth was above. Link! He found his fairy flying his way, just as dazed. What's happening?
You flew into the sky. I watched you go up, and something was pulling me that way too.
She stopped short. Tattle backed away from the boy with wide eyes.
How are you standing like that?
It's the ruby, Link said, finally steadying his mind. It turned everything upside down. Tattle's blank expression didn't change.
That would explain why flying right side up hurts my head now. It feels like I'm being pulled up now instead of down.
She paused.
I saw you fly into the sky, though. How'd you make it on the other side of the cube?
I have no idea, Link said. I blacked out and then woke up here. I guess the ruby brought me back somehow. Tattle tentatively looked down into the sky, as if afraid her wings might give out.
What do you think would happen if you kept falling? Would you reach the end of the sky? Make it to the heavens and the stars? Something tells me that ruby won't be saving you again if you slip.
I don't want to find out. Link tried to imagine an infinite plunge. He'd always been taught that the heavens were beyond the clouds eventually, but he likely wouldn't reach them alive.
I am appalled.
Sparkle's high-pitched voice gave her away. She fluttered up from the block behind him, distressed and struggling to fly according to the new laws of nature.
My head has grown too large for me to fly the right way.
Her sideways gait made her anger all the stranger.
Sparkle Pants, it's not your head,
Tattle said.
It's just the ruby. The whole world is upside down now. Oh, really?
Sparkle asked, flipping over to be right side up. Or upside down. Either way, the privilege of not flying had made the flip much less confusing for him. Are you sure it's the whole world? Link asked. When another boulder dislodged, he watched it fall up to the dark abyss again. They could still make out nothing of its depths, so the stars beneath were their only light. Hopefully we're the only ones who've changed, or else all of Clocktown fell into the sky and died. Tattle's face darkened.
Please don't make me go find out.
He didn't blame her. Such a dramatic change in the world would make his legs shake. Could it flip back at any moment's notice? Better stay within the confines of the temple until we fix it. Let's just focus on getting that key and freeing the giant, Link said, turning to the temple entrance once more. Wait. Link, Tattle, and Sparkle all turned at the deep voice. Rock floated above the block just behind them. Though identical to Sparkle, her wide eyes were even more unsettled as she flew lopsided. The three of them waited for her to elaborate, but she never did.
Yes?
Tattle asked. Rock considered. Eventually, her confusion fell away, and she shrugged. Never mind. Tattle raised an eyebrow.
Is never mind one word or two?
Rock froze in terror. One, she professed uncertainly.
You're so unbelievable,
Sparkle exclaimed.
The whole world just turned upside down, and you still don't have anything to say?
No. Link and Tattle traversed to the temple entrance, while the bickering Sparkle and Rock kept up from behind. How will it be possible to make it through now? He didn't want to believe the Garrow Master had tricked him into dooming themselves, but it was a possibility. Within, the entire temple had been reversed. The face-shaped doorway's askew eyes looked at him from below. Its mouth hung open to touch the bridge that was now the ceiling. The two doors they'd seen before were above and unreachable, but a new one was on the left wall, presumably leading to the same room. The floor was composed of thin metal walkways leading to the gated platform, but otherwise, there was only sky. The hookshot tower beside the new door would lead him over stars and empty air. Lincoln certainly stepped onto the railed walkway. He understood now why so many places had seemed like they were meant for ceiling walkers. Tattle, Sparkle, and Rock, however, were not soothed by this revelation.
Are you sure we shouldn't just turn the temple back around?
Tattle asked.
Maybe there's another way to get to the monsters.
Monsters? Link asked. As in plural. We're only looking for the main one at the end, right?
Tattle is correct, Link the fairy boy,
Sparkle said.
I told her earlier that there are two monsters in this temple rather than one. Twin mold is two halves of one whole. One is never far from the other.
That would have been good information to have, Link said pointedly.
I didn't want to worry you more than I needed to,
Tattle said.
We were doing so well in this temple. I didn't want you to think it was hopeless.
It's not hopeless, Link said. He turned back to the thin walkway. The railing was low, and the wind whipped up from the sky, reminding him that one slip would lead him to an uncertain and mysterious death, and likely more horrific than he could imagine. He walked far enough to be in range of the hookshot tower and aimed at it. We'll find a way to kill both of them. The hook found the spire, and Link's feet left the ground. His heart leapt into his throat as he was suspended over the sky. The early night's darkness practically engulfed him as he passed over, but he was quick to land on the other side. The three fairies joined him.
I'm sorry, Link,
Tattle said. It's okay. We found ways to beat the other three, so this one won't be any different. He kept his reservations to himself, however. Odalwa and Georg would have killed him if it hadn't been for the monkeys or the masked salesman. As he opened the door to the room onward, he looked to his Akana Temple companions. Sparkle and Rock merely stared at him blankly, alongside Tattle. Maybe the third stray fairy will be a warrior? He thought helplessly. He was surprised at the intensity of light and heat in the next room. In the temple's previous orientation, the floor had been lava. Now flipped, streams of molten rock poured from the ceiling and filled the room. Ceiling to floor was one glowing furnace, except where Link stood and directly to his left. The heat alone threatened to knock them out. Link inhaled baked air as the door shut behind him. He was already suffocating. The fairies were quick to cower away from the Red Death as well.
I guess we're not the only things upside down,
Tattle said.
Do you think it just keeps falling forever? The lava has to run out eventually.
I doubt that'll happen anytime soon, Link decided, already stepping away from the door.
It's a good thing you saved me before you turned around the temple,
Sparkle said, eyes wide as they reflected the Red Death. They'd found her jar suspended over a pit of lava. Sparkle would have been incinerated the moment he hit the ruby. Yes, Rock agreed apathetically. On the other side of the lava, the inaccessible alcove was now an easy walk around the lava column. He kept his distance from the heat and hole.
This is going to be an interesting experience,
Tattle said nervously.
Please explain to me the rationale of putting lava floors in a temple that flips upside down, and don't say, to test their worshippers with trials. Melting to death is a test that everyone fails. It is quite extreme temperatures to melt rock,
Sparkle said.
That is why it was so hot in that room, as the lava is actually rock that has melted.
Gross, Rock said. If the first 2 rooms had already proven so perilous, what did that say of the others? Regardless, Link approached the next room without hesitating. It was, after all, the final night. Tattle sighed at the next room.
Oh, really? How many big empty pits leading into the sky are there?
They'd proven nice during the daytime.
When they were above us,
she thought. Below and at night, they were only inconveniences.
Lethal inconveniences.
While Link hadn't slipped yet, it was nerve-wracking to watch him slide along walls and narrow beams. The next room was the biggest and emptiest yet. The floor,
or ceiling,
Tattle thought bitterly, was entirely absent. The doorway was on an alcove that simply emptied into the air. The sky's purple hue darkened into black, and mines dangled from what had once been the floor. They dangled in the high wind, spikes glistening in starlight. There wasn't a way across without wings. The buzzing noises from somewhere in the darkness was just as unnerving.
Remember how I told you to find a dragon and turn into a mask?
Tattle asked.
You haven't gotten around to that yet, have you? Oh, a dragon!
Sparkle exclaimed, gasping. Cool, Rock said, smiling. No, I can't turn into a dragon, Link said. Have you ever seen one before, Tattle? I doubt Hyrule's would have given me a time to play the Song of Healing.
You've actually met a dragon?
Tattle asked.
Of course you have,
she thought. Sometimes she forgot he'd done this whole adventuring thing before. Yes, he said, scanning the empty sky pit for a way across. I mentioned him earlier today, actually. Volvagia. I killed him because he liked eating Gorons. Tattle frowned.
We could try turning him if there's a shadow of Volvagia here. Do you have a whistle that could call him? Or would it be a bad idea for you to turn into something that eats people?
Link rolled his eyes. Yes, I've had a dragon whistle this entire time and neglected to tell you about it.
Do you or do you not have a dragon whistle?
Sparkle asked, sounding slightly irritated. Sarcasm, Rock answered.
See? Rock gets it,
Tattle said.
Take inspiration from your better half.
Link spotted a thin ledge wrapping around the wall, eventually leading to an alcove and doorway.
A very thin ledge,
Tattle thought, gulping.
I already disagree, she said.
It's the only way.
Do you hear that buzzing?
Tattle asked.
Dragonflies, and there's no hookshot spire thing to save you if you fall. You'd just be lost in the sky.
How about I scoot across as a Deku scrub? Link asked. I'll have smaller feet. I'll be lighter, and I won't need arm room to draw a bow or fire my hookshot.
I mean, maybe.
But he was already transforming. His weapons disappeared, and his small, cursed form returned. The young Deku scrub pushed his back into the wall and inched along the narrow ledge.
Precarious ledge number 683,
she thought grimly. Rock, Sparkle, and Tattle followed along, lighting his way and watching out for dragonflies. The beasts were mostly obscured by night's shadow, but starlight and fairy light occasionally illuminated one. None tried attacking, as the Deku scrub worked his way around to the other side. The bitter wind chilled her, but the blank abyss below them and its twinkling eyes had an even colder effect.
If something so drastic can change in the world, why should I trust my wings?
Tattle wondered. What is up and what is down had always been certain truths. Link only had to use his poisonous bubbles once. Tattle gave him a lengthy warning before the monster reached him, stinger raised. The projectile cut straight through it, and the dragonfly fluttered down lifelessly into the sky. The rest of the journey was uneventful, and Link hopped into the alcove safely. He removed the mask to become a human, smiling when the fairies joined him. Ah, that was painless.
And drama-free,
Tattle said.
Let's keep it that way from here on out. Deal? I think it would be hard to avoid the drama, given what awaits us at the end of Stone Tower Temple,
Sparkle added. This time, Tattle ignored her. When they opened the door to the next room, it was an enclosed stone hallway. There was a door on either end, and upside-down doors on the ceiling, too. As the four ventured to the other side, it was Sparkle who found the room's one other feature.
A jar!
Tattle turned to see a familiar-looking pot against the wall.
Uh-oh. Why is this one just lying in the middle of a hallway?
She asked.
Yours was the only one under high security lockdown, Sparkle Pants. Oh my, it's our brother, our brother, our brother!
Sparkle exclaimed repeatedly, flying up and down happily. Yes, Rock agreed, showing the faintest hint of emotion.
Release him immediately!
Sparkle pleaded. Tattle turned to Link with narrowed eyes.
Go ahead and do it, Deku Brain. Surely the third addition to our party won't be ridiculous.
Link shattered the pot against the wall, and a golden light sprang forth. The fairy within stretched their wings, and Sparkle and Rock watched with wide eyes, Link with indifference, and Tattle with horror, as the first words came from his mouth.
Hello, hello, greets Marty McGee. He is oh so thankful you have sent him free.
The golden fairy fluttered to join their party, a wide smile on his face.
He loves making friends wherever he goes, even in temples with so many woes. No, no,
cried Tattle.
He sings,
cheered Sparkle. Oh, stated Rock.
I sing and I sing for the whole world to hear. With Marty around, you have nothing to fear.
Tattle withheld a shriek of terror.
Please, for the love of Din, tell me this is some sick dream. I'd rather face 3 twin molds, 4 dragons, and 7 Majoras. I often sing of the 4 mighty dragons. Just sit in a circle and pass me a flagon.
I love him, Sparkle exclaimed gleefully.
Please, sing me the song of the 4 mighty dragons.
It'll be okay, Link said, repressing a smile. Let's just keep going. Try to tune them out. Ugh. Rock agreed, rolling her eyes.
Yes, Rock's right, Tattle said. I like Rock.
The other 2 fairies were either ignoring her or didn't seem to care. Sparkle was enraptured by Marty as he entertained his one audience member.
Leviash, Eldon, Loneru, and Farron each had a name, even long, long before their dragonly fame.
Tattle tried her best to ignore the singing, flying as close to Link and Rock as possible. Link pushed the next door open, and all 5 of them followed.
For thousands of years they each had a song. They kept it all to themselves for all of that long. He's awful at forcing these rhymes,
Tattle thought. She wondered if he enjoyed being so obnoxious, or if it was a personality trait hardwired into his little stray fairy brain. It took her a while to recognize the next room. It had changed quite drastically since turning upside down. It stretched upwards into darkness that was hard to see, but below it looked familiar. On the floor that had once been a ceiling, there were 2 large holes. They each led into the sky and produced large gusts of wind, chilling the dark room and all who entered it. She recalled flying through those with Sparkle. Now the room had no water, and the bridge was near the top. Dark, twisted hallways, hanging mines, and dragonflies filled the labyrinth of stone and rock. Their alcove once again cut off without a pathway. Marty didn't seem to care and kept singing.
Their leadership and might inspired quite the transition, as into this world came 4 great magicians.
Would you mind finding the way out? Link asked. If this is the bridge room, then I think we're close to the room where the Garo Master was. There has to be an upside-down door somewhere.
Of course,
Tattle said, trying and failing to move through her irritation.
These wonderful wizards extended their magical hand as they turned into giants to guard over this land.
Tattle, who'd been about to leave as dramatically and angrily as possible, stopped. At the edge of the dark well, she listened without turning around.
Though not all went well with their magical plan, Marty said, as their friend the imp could not understand. Are you talking about the giants here?
Tattle asked. Marty McGee stopped, smiling stupidly as Sparkle practically hung off his shoulder.
My dear fairy, you've interrupted my song, the bard said, for I'd intended to sing it almost all night long. You've already rhymed song and long, Tattle said. Can you just answer my question? You're ruining his song, Sparkle protested. If you wish to learn more of the dragons and the magicians, then all you have to do is sit down and— No!
Tattle flew into Marty McGee, pushed Sparkle aside, and pinned the bard against the wall. Marty's smile vanished.
Listen, you freaking pixie. You've been a part of this group for 30 seconds, and I already hate you more than all the doorknobs in the world put together. You will answer my questions. If the next 2 sentences that come out of your mouth rhyme, I'm going to bash your face into the wall. Got it?
Marty McGee stared at her in absolute terror.
You are being quite mean and aggressive,
Sparkle gasped.
You wouldn't hurt him. He's one of us.
I wouldn't, Esther, Link said.
So I am going to repeat myself, Tattle said. Are you talking about the giants here in Termina?
Marty McGee stared blankly at her before finding the courage to speak.
I am happy to confirm that these are the giants of which I speak. Is there any more information that I can help you?
Tattle's eyes widened furiously, and Marty gulped.
No. Yes, Tattle said. You said that an imp was their friend. Was that the Skull Kid?
Marty McGee averted his eyes. When he opened his mouth next, his stammer was much more prominent.
I don't think so. That Skull Child lived almost 1,000 years ago.
Each unrhymed word pained him more than the last.
I don't know the whole story. There are books that might be of more help. But you're the one who's singing about it,
Tattle exclaimed.
Tattle, it doesn't matter,
Link said. Tattle turned back to see his blue eyes shining in the darkness.
The Skull Kid is dead.
The Skull Kid is dead? Sparkle asked. Tattle released the third stray fairy, watching as he flew to rejoin his friends. Each other member of their party stared at her, as if waiting for her to be mean again.
Great.
She brushed their searching gazes away.
Does it even change anything if the Skull Kid used to be friends with the giants?
Tattle thought. If Marty was right, it sounded like they might have also been wizards named after dragons from another world. Tattle left those questions behind for now, searching in the darkness for the next door, as Link had asked. Link was right, she supposed. The Skull Kid was dead. But if there was going to be a blank slate Skull Kid on top of the clock tower, where they planned on summoning the giants, she wanted to know as much as she could. What could the giants even do if they showed up? Zap the moon away with laser vision? Smash the Skull Kid with their fists in one fell swoop? What if their friendship stopped them from killing him? When it came down to it. Then Tattle shook her head, deciding she was being silly. Skull Kid was dead. Marty was a vapid bard, and even if his story was true, there was no way the Skull Kid had lived to be 1,000. She remembered the day she discovered him in that log, shivering underneath it for shelter. The words he'd said came back to her.
They left me. They really left me. My friends. They didn't really care about me.
Then, unexpectedly, another memory came back to her. She stood with Link on a column, suspended in a surreal dream with an eerie blue glow. The giant of Great Bay stood far amongst the clouds. Its words were deep, and they echoed solemnly.
Help our friend.
Tattle froze, her mouth widening in understanding. She hardly heard the stinger in time. The buzzing gave the dragonfly away, and the fairy dodged it. The monster flew back to strike again, glowing eyes, bestial as its wings buzzed furiously. Its body was hard to see in the night, but the point on its tail was visible when it flew for her face. Tattle avoided the dragonfly again, zipping away much quicker than it could fly. The dragonfly gave up, returning to its maze of dark pathways and columns. Tattle remained floating in place, catching her breath.
What does that mean? She thought. Did we fail the giants by killing the Skull Kid?
Tattle wondered if she should bring this up to Link.
No,
she decided.
Not now.
Especially after he'd just shot her down with questioning Marty. There was too much to think about already with the temple.
Afterward,
she decided.
Or maybe when we visit the final giant.
It was, after all, waiting for them at the end of this temple. As Tattle searched for another route, the night waned below them. Hints of red crept into the sky.
It always turns red just before the moon starts falling.
The earthquakes had begun long ago, but now they were getting worse.
I found it!
Tattle exclaimed after spotting the next door. She flew back to them and discovered tensions had died down. Rock was expressionless again. Link smiled at her appearance. Sparkle was back to goggling over Marty, and the bard smiled smugly. "Is it going to be hard to get to the next door?" Link asked.
Tattle stammered, clearing her mind of the Skull Kid nonsense. "If you're not a fairy? Yes, but I think I saw a Deku flower nearby."
Tattle illuminated a small platform down and to the right. The flower grew out of cracks, and it was old, dusty, and withered. Despite that, it might serve its purpose. She turned back to the gaping holes in the floor far below and the wind gushing from them. She saw the cogs and Link's brain turn as he connected the dots.
"Got it?"
"I think so," Link said, situating himself to leap for the flower.
"Just avoid the dragonflies and the mines,"
she said. The dangling spike balls and their chains were everywhere. Link leapt to the soft flower and plodded his way forward before applying the Deku mask. "Sleepy," Rock commented, yawning.
"Being tired is a luxury that our hero cannot afford,"
Sparkle said. "A hero never tires from adventure and war, elsewise he's like to be quite the bore," added Marty McGee. Tattle shot him a nasty look at that latest rhyme, and he quickly averted his eyes.
"That's right,"
Tattle thought.
"Thank goodness we have such a witty group of stray fairies to follow us around and comment on everything that happens,"
she said.
"You're welcome,"
Sparkle said, beaming. Link dove into the old flower as a Deku scrub, popping out with a withered flower in each hand. They carried him forward like propellers, and he kicked his little legs to bring him closer to the stream of air. The four fairies followed closely. The massive tunnels of wind filled his petals with life, and Link zipped upward way too quickly. He tried to steady himself at the high speed, narrowly avoiding a mine. He aimed for the nearby bridge in his wrestle for control, but a final column separated him from his destination. A singular mine hung from the column. He kicked to arc around it, even as his pedals slowed down. Tattle was confident he'd make it, until a dragonfly came around the corner. It raised its stinger to strike the helpless Deku scrub. Link squealed as he twisted his body out of the way, and his maneuver cost him. Link's back was to the monster as it came around and reared its stinger again. It would paralyze him, and the hero's limbs would be helpless as he fell into the sky's open maw.
"No!"
A golden fairy grabbed the chain attached to the nearby mine. Tattle watched as the stray fairy swung it around to hit the dragonfly. Boom! The explosion was a sharp flash of light that blasted Tattle backward. She spun, blinded, and deafened. Somewhere in the distance, she heard Link wailing. Tattle blinked the bright blur away, steadying herself and looking for everyone.
Link!
Two golden fairies remained floating beside her, disoriented but unharmed. She found Link lying on the bridge, though his flowers were charred ruins. The explosion's force must have blown him to safety, and he was only a few bruises worse for it.
"Oh, Link!"
she exclaimed, flying to his side as he crawled into a sitting position. His face was stricken with horror, noticing something behind her.
"You're okay? What happened to—"
She paused, turning to find a golden light a few feet away. Sparkle lay on her side, her back to the boy and other fairies. She was huddled in a ball, completely still. Tattle reached for her shoulder and shook her.
"Sparkle?"
she asked. Her head fell to the side limply. A deep, bloody burn had been seared across half her face. Sparkle's eyes fluttered open, her lips quivering.
"Tattle."
The white fairy's heart sank.
"Yeah? You got my name right."
The stray fairy smiled, and Tattle returned it.
"You going to be okay?"
Sparkle shakily sat up.
What happened?" "You knocked the mine into the dragonfly before it could sting Link."
Tattle beamed down at her as Link removed his mask and the other fairies joined them.
"You saved him."
Sparkle smiled, but the left side of her mouth remained frozen in scar tissue. She winced in pain, bringing her hand to her twisted grimace.
"Does that mean I'm a hero now?" "I guess so, huh?"
Tattle said. The air-headed fairy hadn't thought twice before sacrificing her life.
"Which is maybe even more noble than me,"
Tattle thought. Though she remembered diving in front of that lightning bolt for Link so long ago, maybe she and Sparkle had more in common than she realized.
I'm so glad to have helped you in your cause, Link the fairy boy,
Sparkle said. Thank you, Link said. I mean it. I'd be dead without you. Congratulations, Rock spat.
The hero of fairies has been crowned today. Let us all celebrate with a hip hip hooray!
Marty McGee added. Sparkle's smile was as wide as always, but this time, Tattle decided she'd earned it, even if she wouldn't admit that aloud. After yet another lava room, the next chamber ambushed Link with a profound chill. The Garrow Master's former chamber had turned into a large pit emptying into the sky, like almost every other room. The border surrounding the gap was wide, but the floor where he'd battled the warrior was now above. Link wondered if this was a dead end now. He approached the sky abyss and peered inside. The final night's faint red glow was terrifying.
Was this our end destination?
Tattle asked uncertainly. I assumed, Link said. The Garrow Master made it sound like we were supposed to come back here.
But there's nowhere else to go.
Uh-oh, Rock said.
Without finding another way to go, does this mean we've conceded to the foe?
Marty asked. No, Link said bluntly. The Garrow Master said turning the temple upside down would reveal the way onward. Had he meant somewhere else? An odd scuffling sound caused Link to pause.
Link the fairy boy will never give in to the foe,
Sparkle said, her hand still tentatively touching the burn on her face. Marty chimed in again.
With the key to lead us onward, the
Shh, Link whispered. The beating of many wings pierced the night. They were quick and sharp, bringing Link's attention to the sky abyss. Something was coming. Many somethings. The small, black creatures were hardly visible, but their screeching and rapid wing beats echoed off stone. Bats, a smaller brethren to Keese. Link stumbled backward as they shot into the temple from the sky, fanning out like a great geyser. The creatures met just above him, swarming into a rotating, levitating sphere. It condensed until the individual wings and eyes fell to darkness, and the shadow stretched itself into a new shape. A new foe was born before him. Green, glowing eyes opened above a mouth dripping with crimson. 2 horns adorned the head, pointed above tattered black robes that were once the wings of bats. It drew a scythe from oblivion, its long silver blade glistening. The monster's bloody lips curled into a smile as the creature floated toward him, weapon raised.
Gomez!
Sparkle exclaimed, shrieking as she flew to safety. Link brought his shield in hand to stop the blade. As the glowing eyes drew closer, the warmth in Link's body fled. Gomez's very presence turned his blood to ice.
Who's Gomez?
Tattle asked, joining the other fairies to watch from afar. Link sidestepped the scythe's path as it reached for his foot. The boy made sure to dance away from the infinite starry void waiting beneath the arena. Wind bellowed up to chill him almost as much as the monster. Henchman, Rock answered Tattle.
The creature of darkness will cause you much strife. Be wary, oh so wary of his long pointed knife.
Link didn't think knife was anywhere close to accurate as the blade swung at his face again. He barely bent backward enough. The weapon's serrated edge grazed his nose. He returned to his fighting stance and thrust his gilded sword forward. Gomez retaliated by becoming hundreds of bats again, and Link's sword simply met thin air. He lost his footing, but the hero caught his balance yet again. The bats quickly recreated Gomez again, scythe drawn for more combat. The hero noticed a glowing orb deep within the dark folds of its bat-like robes. Gomez gave him no chance to attack, though, swinging its scythe around in a wide circle. Link's shield was useless against the weapon's length. When he rose it, the scythe's edge caught on his shield. Gomez pulled, disarming Link and sending him stumbling toward the pit. He barely managed to stop himself from falling, but before he'd recovered, Gomez thrust out its free arm. Bats flew forth and swarmed him, attacking his arms and face. Link tried to bat them away, and in the chaos, he was surprised when his next step met air. Link fell. He was free of bats now, but his stomach churned with horror. The pit's edge fell far, far away. He saw his 4 fairies watching in horror as their faces grew smaller. Link was in freefall. The wind whipped his tunic and hair as he watched the roof of Stone Tower Temple shrink. It was replaced by the bruise-colored sky. The hero was enveloped in night as he fell upward. When he opened his mouth, a few grunts escaped, but he was unable to say much else, his shield hand opening and closing but finding nothing. It had happened. Ever since the red gem had turned things around, he'd been in perpetual fear of falling into the sky. Now, death had come for him. He couldn't think clearly as he fell. The stars and violet hues were an ocean of color, a tapestry to paint a world nearing its end. Maybe I'll fall on the moon. The pit in his stomach grew, still frozen in terror as the canyon grew smaller. He heard her voice before he saw the 4 lights.
Link! Link!
It took him a moment to focus. The sickening descent had an iron grip on his mind and body.
Turn into a Deku Scrub!
4 lights. 3 were golden and 1 was white.
Turn into a Deku Scrub!
He realized the 4 fairies were flying at him as quickly as they could. Link's instincts kicked in. He slid his sword away and pulled out the Deku mask. His belongings and human limbs were gone, and he was now much lighter. His frail, wood-like body fell a lot slower. Tattle, Sparkle, Rock, and Marty soon surrounded him, small fairy hands gripping each of his limbs as he fell.
We're here, Link, the fairy boy!
Sparkle exclaimed, their grips tightening.
Try and stop him!
Tattle screamed. Rock groaned. Link's falling slowed as the tiny arms strained, halting his descent. He noticed Tattle's blackened arm twitching, unable to bear much weight at all. Still, the 4 of them turned out to be just enough. Link now levitated in the air as a Deku Scrub, 100 feet or so below the opening to their room. A fairy was holding each arm and leg, and the pit in his stomach was gone. The fairies' faces were overwhelmed with shock and effort.
You saved me.
Link squeaked to the 4 of them.
Yes, we did.
Sparkle groaned, struggling to hold on.
Us fairies with wings must help out with these things.
Marty McGee added, barely keeping his rhythm between breaths.
Hurry!
Tattle said, her blackened arm still straining.
Heave, you ludicrous bunch of winged freaks, heave!
And so, the 4 fairies flew him back to the opening in the room, slowly but surely. Link was surprised by their strength, feeling completely helpless as the fairies carried him. However, Gomez wasn't willing to wait for them to return. Bats poured from the opening as soon as they noticed him, heading directly toward them like bullets. Oh, really? Rock complained. The pests were practically invisible in the night, save for their bright eyes and their loud flapping.
What are we going to do?
Sparkle asked in distress, turning, along with the other fairies, to Tattle for support.
Link?
Tattle asked.
Way ahead of you,
Link thought, as he summoned a poisonous bubble. The green liquid cut through the nighttime air to encase their enemies. Each bat fell when hit, no longer able to fly with the heavy poison weighing them down. They swam chaotically away from the band of heroes. Sparkle, Tattle, Rock, and Marty McGee took advantage of the reprieve, using their last of their strength to heave Link back into the room. He fell ungracefully to the floor, returned to the upside-down room where he'd fought the Garo Master.
Now don't fall again!
Tattle exclaimed, panting with the other 3 as they caught their breath. Link was quick to stand, running for his fallen shield as the remaining bats poured back into the room. Their cold, dark aura returned, but Link persisted. The hero turned into a human and grabbed his shield just as the bats became one and drew their scythe. Link reached for his bow, deciding there was only one way to beat darkness. The scythe came down onto the mirror shield as the boy notched an arrow from behind. He dropped his defensive weapon to reveal a poised arrow, notched against the string with its pointed tip glistening. The golden gem on the bow's limb glowed, giving birth to light. Link saw fear in Gomez's eyes just before he fired his weapon. The arrow struck the orb within the tattered robes, and the monster's shriek was dark. The bats tried to flee from the dying being, but each turned to ash before getting far. The bloody lips vanished as the dark being exploded into a beam of light. Then, nothing of it remained, only ash on the ground, which blew away in the wind. Link stowed his weapons as the 4 fairies flew to join him.
We killed it!
Sparkle exclaimed.
Yes, we did,
Tattle said, smiling. That's the second time I would have died without you all, Link said.
We are honored to fight with Link the Fairy Boy,
Sparkle shouted.
Anything for the hero who will finally reunite us once and for all.
Sure, Rock said, though her smile conveyed her enthusiasm.
The 5 heroes were all so mighty and strong, how they ventured to fight and right every wrong.
So much for having to deal with this temple on our own,
Tattle said.
They may not be powerful sorcerers with masks or monkeys, but they came through.
And we have to come through for them, Link said, by killing Twin Mold.
Any idea where we're supposed to go?
Tattle asked, looking around the room.
I don't see another door.
I noticed a way onward,
Sparkle exclaimed. The golden fairy fluttered over to a small crawl space on a far wall.
For us fairies, it should be easier, but I think you could fit through as well, Link the Fairy Boy.
Link had fit through smaller holes before and was quick to get on his hands and knees. As promised, it led onward. And I wouldn't be able to reach this if the temple was right side up. The Garo Master's advice had proven true. Link crawled through, and the fairies followed. The next room was closet-sized at best. The only door leading them forward was currently upside down, on what had once been the floor. A red gem glowed from below it, so Link knew what to do. Sparkle, Rock, and Marty McGee flew out of the crawl space behind him. Tattle was the last to join them, raising an eyebrow at the closet. They were practically at each other's elbows.
How spacious,
Tattle said.
Guess we get to turn the world back the right way?
I guess, Link said uncertainly, removing the bow from his bag. His finger brushed against his golden gem worriedly. I only have 5 light arrows left.
5?
Tattle said.
Well, we have to use one now. We don't have a choice.
Link nodded. I don't want to use one on Twin Mold, then. We might need all 4 to fight Majora. Tattle didn't reply. Who knew what it would take to fight Twin Mold? For all they knew, the final monster would demand everything of them. Brace yourselves, Link said, preparing for the world to spin again.
Will do.
Will. The 4 fairies huddled together as he released the string. It was as beautiful as before. The red gem glowed, swallowing the arrow and light. The resonating sound was much louder in the closet, but Link planted his boots firmly, waiting. Link's feet were ripped out from underneath him, and he immediately slammed into the ceiling and passed out.
Nope.
Tattle thought furiously, trying her best to hold on. Just as nauseatingly as before, everything turned, but this time she tried not to fight it. Even as every instinct told her to, Link had flown into the ceiling like a rock, instantly getting knocked out. While the temple flipping threatened to rip her mind away too, she willed herself to power through the nauseous spinning.
Focus.
She did, and eventually the world settled around her. A thud made her open her eyes. Sparkle had not been as successful, now lying passed out next to Link. Rock and Marty McGee floated there as if nothing had happened.
You guys okay?
She asked. Yeah, Rock answered.
The singer is always prepared for the badness, lest he be willing to face great sadness.
Link moaned only a few moments later, struggling to his feet as he rubbed his head. He appeared uninjured, aside from the nasty knot where his forehead had met stone. That hurt.
Looks like it,
Tattle agreed.
You and Sparkle fell like lifeless ragdolls.
She motioned to the unconscious fairy, whose light thankfully still glowed. We'll carry her. The boy scooped the stray fairy into his hands, leading them through the next door. The next room's walls were made of Ikona's familiar stone, but written upon them was a foreign language. Every inch of wall had an ancient symbol carved into it. It was closed off at all ends with a door leading forward across the room. Overturned stone tables and benches had been reduced to scattered rubble. A set of small stairs remained intact, leading to something on the far wall. Shrine, Rock said. The room wasn't very big, but a priest had done a great job entombing holy scripture for eternity.
Can anyone read these words?
Tattle asked. She turned to see that Link was transfixed by the 2 items hanging at the top of the shrine's stairs. He approached them cautiously, rubble and ruin only partially obstructing his path. No, Link answered. an unconscious sparkle still in his hand. "I've never seen this language before." One of the objects was a mask. It was gray and long enough to cover someone's whole forehead. 2 eye indentations were carved into the top above grated teeth, which were covered at the center by a bar. It was a harsh, unyielding mask. It hung right beside a large golden key with a ruby in the handle. Link stopped when he reached their prizes. He ran his fingers across the mask's smooth surface.
Giant.
Tattle read, finally recognizing a word. It was scrawled on the wall just beside the mask. "What?" Link asked.
It's what this word means. I can't make out most of them, but I recognize that one.
"What do you think that means for the mask?"
Maybe it's the giant's mask,
Tattle said, watching as Link removed it from the wall. He held it reverently, and the same thought crossed their minds.
Should he put it on?
She recognized another word that answered the question for them.
Danger.
Link's expression darkened. "Maybe there's a reason it's next to this key. Maybe I need to wait until the next room."
I bet you're right, Tattle said. It would be really sad if you put on the mask and immediately crushed all of us and your own bones. This room is too small for a giant.
"Danger could be about something else," Link said. "We don't know for sure it's about the mask."
"Well,"
Tattle said as Link removed the shining golden key from the wall too.
"There's only one way to find out."
The final monster awaited.